G'day guys, welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm actually going to look at some motion graphics from movie titles that have really inspired me over the years, and I want to kind of share them with you and sort of maybe point out some things that you might not have noticed before, but some of these are just gems. People have just gone above and beyond to create titles that not only just captivate, but just really redefine what it is to make titles for movies. So let's dive right in and have a look. So this first one from Steven Spielberg is Catch Me If You Can. I love how they've just used this sort of like, you know, hand-drawn kind of style of texture, but it's very simple, kind of nice straight lines. But what's even better about this is they've kind of used the titles in such a way that if you watch all the titles, it basically is telling the story of the whole movie. I could watch a whole movie in this style. Like, I would love to see something like this. Actually, while researching this credit sequence, I realized that they actually put a ton of work into this opening sequence by actually carving out some handmade sort of stamps that they could use for each of the characters. And they kept it fairly rough to kind of keep it in the aesthetic of the style of the movie, where Frank Abagnale basically forges stamps that he's able to basically use to get his way through the different scenarios that he's in. To quote one of my great teachers growing up, sometimes a few handmade aspects are kind of what gives it that little bit of magic. Now this next title sequence is from Danny Yuant, who designed the Tron Legacy titles. Now, say what you will about the movie, whether you liked it or not, but the aesthetic they got for this movie is spot on. This sort of like the chromatic aberration, the edges, the way that it looks like circuitry, and the way that even the text comes on, like, this is just a work of art, guys, and it looks really, really intricate. And I've tried doing this, but myself, like trying to make these titles myself, but they are not easy to make, guys. It's a lot of beautiful work here, and I don't know if it was procedurally generated or they were all hand done, but every little bit of this title sequence just screams just aesthetic beauty, and I love this title sequence to death. Plus, the soundtrack from Daft Punk is just an amazing piece of work. In fact, I dare say the best thing that Daft Punk and Hans Zimmer probably have ever done. Now again, this was a movie that I kind of liked in the meantime. It's not an amazing movie, I don't think, personally. Like, I think there's a lot of flaws about this movie, but Jim Carrey does turn in a perfect performance.
I am Stefano. I am an Italian man.
This title sequence just enchanted me in ways that I cannot express. Like, look at the way they've done the cutouts here, just above and beyond where they've gone for this sort of like, I don't know, Balinese style, kind of like shadow puppet kind of vibe. It's just so beautiful in the way that it's been designed, and they've taken so much care to really make the movements feel like a Balinese puppet show. And the textures look so real and so alive, and also like just like the Catch Me If You Can intro. This movie, this title sequence really just does sort of just retell the whole movie in a credit sequence. And although this is at the end of the movie, I dare say, again, like the Catch Me If You Can sequence, I would love to see a whole movie. In fact, I would love to see Lemonade Snickets done in this style. Like, that's how much this style captivated me. In fact, the reason I do the character animation I do today is because of this title sequence. Like, the way that it is structured, so simple, so beautiful, so elegant. So many things about this title sequence just make me think, man, I need to be better at what I do. Now, if you were living under a rock, you probably already saw Game of Thrones, but I just wanted to call out the title sequence. This is from season 8, but of course, every iteration of this Game of Thrones sequence is an amazeball sequence. From the music to the way they design each of the miniatures, the way that they animate in like a chessboard is, well, like a mechanical like tabletop thing is pretty bloody amazing. And the way they use the depth of field to really convey that it's all in macro is really beautiful as well. It doesn't feel real, but that doesn't really matter. I think it's more the fact that you get the idea of what's been conveyed here. Like, everything feels like a little miniature of what is happening in real life, and conveying the ideas of what's happening in the show. There's little intricate like little machines that are happening. You really feel like this is like one of those clockwork kind of style machines that is really driving the story. And I love this about the Game of Thrones intros, is that there's so much love and craftsmanship in the show. Regardless of how you felt about season 8, this intro is still banger all the way to the end, and it's more consistent than I can say about the TV show. Now, this movie right out of the gate completely surprised me. Like, I did not expect this movie to be as good as it was. It was one of my favorite movies when it came out. This credit sequence blew me away. Like I just, the way that they use the repeated shapes here to sort of convey animation, like you can kind of see here with each of the 3D shapes, it's a different frame every single time. And while that is not easy to do. I don't care who you are, that would not have been an easy task to do. Like maybe they wrote a script for it, but geez, that is just, the compositing here is just like mind-blowingly good. Like this stuff just looks so complex in a way that you had to have loved to have done this, to create something this beautiful. There is so much love put into this credit sequence and so much care that it's such a joy to watch this credit sequence, because every single frame is populated with something that is really, really interesting. And I don't know how else to describe it, but this credit sequence is pure joy. It makes me want to be a better compositor and a better animator.
Hey.
This is Sparta! Let them fight.
This is another one from Danny Yunt that I really loved. I love how it goes to like that comic book style panel, and then it goes into all the intricate details of like the circuitry, and the way they've done it in a way that it feels like you're looking at blueprints for the Iron Man costume. Now, they have kind of done variations of this in later editions, but being the first Marvel movie and just blowing it away with these title sequences was just the icing on the cake for already what was going to be, you know, monumental later on. But this was just a fantastic title sequence. Like the use of the Iron Man song in this as well just pairs with it really well. But this line art and the way that it just feels like you're looking at the blueprint vibe of this is just beautiful. And they kind of go through different colors, which is just nice. When you think you're gonna get bored of the orange, they go to like the red, and then they go to blue, and then they go to red, and then they go to orange again. It's just such a beautiful way of like conveying what we just saw and the mechanical vibe of you know, what we just saw on screen. Sort of almost telling the story through the Iron Man suit changes. And I love the way they've used the type, like the outline type font, which was a bit more like, wasn't as trendy as it is now. Like it's a lot more trendy now, but this design is just beautiful. I can't remember if the Avengers came first or this movie came first. I'm pretty sure the Avengers came first, but this whole sort of macro photography of looking at like objects that you can't really tell isn't completely new, but I do love how they did it in Guillermo del Toro's Pacific Rim. And it's just a lovely kind of like way to kind of send off this film, compared with like the amazing soundtrack that Tom Morello was a part of. And I think the guy who wrote Game of Thrones, like another amazing pairing. But I do love the aesthetic of this vibe, the chrome, the shininess. It almost makes it feel like they're like miniature toys that you can play with to some degree. The movie was fantastic, and you can tell that Guillermo del Toro just really put his heart and soul into this film. And likewise with these graphics, like the ending, Raymond Dwaji, that's his name, with these end credits, you can just tell that they just put so much love and care into making you feel like you just watched a great movie. Because like I said, I'm not saying that movies are judged by their their credit sequences, but geez, I just thought this was just beautiful, and I think they did a fantastic job just knocking it out of the park with, you know, just these beautiful camera moves and just making you feel like you're just looking at a piece of art. Like to me, this end credit sequences is a piece of art. The font choices, the color schemes, the color grade, the 3D models are all beautifully detailed. The pull focuses and what they focus on. Look at the textures on these things, man. They're just absolutely perfect. Love it. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.